Hello everyone, Juicebags here, and welcome back to some more Terraria 1.3 Let's Build. Now today we're going to be building out a pumpkin moon farm. Fully AFK, of course. Hats off to Happy Days, which some of his videos on his trap building is really inspired me to get a lot of these things done, as he has done some pretty cool things. So anyway, today we're going to be mainly focusing on wiring, since that's where most people seem to be a little confused. But let's go ahead and get things started. We started off by leveling out a large area to create a small lava pool to eliminate spawns outside the area. Now, when you're digging this thing out, it's important to note that the end has to be at least 85 blocks from the center on each side. So that's 170 blocks wide. If you go with, remember to go with the odd number here, as it's easier to keep everything 100% symmetrical. Now, in the center of this large flattened area, I went on and dug down a hole, and I put a 9-block wide platform directly below, along with a 9x10 setup of spear traps directly above, and just for good measure I went on and threw some flame traps in on the sides, both pointing towards the center. Now our objective here is we're going to sit in our little slime invulnerability box, which does work in the most current version of Terraria with this event. It was patched up so that you couldn't use slime invulnerability against the Moon Lord, but you can on these other events. Now, your slime invulnerability box, that teleporter pad that you're going to be standing on has to be at least 37 blocks up from the platform. The reason so is that is the limit required for mobs to spawn. So basically what we're doing here is we're forcing all of the ground mobs to spawn directly on that pad. Now, directly above our slime invulnerability box, we're going to put another 9x10 set of spear traps. And then directly up from that, we've got our triggering mechanism, which is going to teleport us into the box, and it's going to time all of our spear traps properly. Even further above that, we've got another teleporting pad, which is going to be our exit out of the trap to go down and collect all the fat loots. Now remember, this teleporter pad has to be 48 blocks above this teleporter pad, because we want this to be out of the range so that no mobs are able to spawn up here during the event. So let's go ahead and get started with some wiring. We're going to alternate blue, green, and red, and we're going to basically go directly from the pressure plates in the center over to a 1-second timer. So we're going to go blue, green, red. So we got blue here, blue there, and then blue all the way up top. Switch over and do the same thing with green. You don't really even have to use all 3 colors, but I always like to, just to make sure that you run into no confusion down the way when you're wiring everything up. Alright, and there we go. So we're going to use this device to start these 1-second timers, just like so, to start the event. Now when we look, all those 1-second timers are activated, and you can go down the list and shut them off manually by right-clicking them to turn everything off, or you can just go right back on through. Now, we also are going to need to wire up this teleporter pad. So we're going to just go through a pressure plate right there. In fact, I'm not even going to take it that direction. I think I'm going to go straight down. We'll have to kind of wait and see how things pan out. Now let's go ahead and get our first set of spears wired. The first set of spears that we're going to wire from the lowest pressure plates on the triggering mechanism are also going to be the lowest rows of spears. So I'll go ahead and do the first one, and then I'll just speed right on through the rest. So let's start off getting blue down there. Now you want to try to keep your wiring as clean as possible, so you can overlap each color as they're coming down. Now we want to keep those separate. Since we're using multiples of each color, we want to make sure that we're not overlapping this large combined wire. Let's see, and we want it to go blue all the way down to the bottom. I think we're going to have to go out one, aren't we? Yeah, whoop. Always try to keep it clean as you're going along as well. Or I'm sorry, I said the bottom. Derp. The bottom set of wires from the triggering mechanism are actually going to go to our top sets of traps. So they're actually going to be triggering in a reverse order. Where this blue is the last to trigger, it will be triggering this first set of spears. Pardon me. So we're just going to go right on over those spear traps. Now remember, all of these spear traps have been actuated. And then we're going to do the same with green. Important to get all of those traps actuated and all of those wires yanked prior to doing this, of course. And then red. And there we go. So I'm going to go ahead and speed through the process for getting the rest of this top set of traps wired. And we'll hop right back on in just one moment. Alright, so now that we have all of our traps wired, we can easily use our triggering mechanism to activate these traps. And you can see it puts our spear traps off in a very nice order and continuous massive onslaught. Let's go ahead and turn these guys back off. Now before we get started on wiring the other side, we want to make sure we get our teleporter pad wired up. Trying to keep everything as compact as possible with the wiring. And there we go, our teleporter pad is squared away. Now on that same note, we can go ahead and put our teleporter escape in place. Now we see that we used, or I put a switch right on the side down here. That switch is going to be used to activate this teleporter pad to get back out. Of course, you don't want to use the same color as the one going in, just to avoid any sort of confusion. Actually, I think it's fine as long as they're not touching, but better to be safe than sorry and just use a different color. And once again, just trying to keep it clean as we go. And now we can activate the traps and go inside of it. And this is how we're going to enter it for the event. We're going to go through and activate all the traps and then head on inside of our slime invulnerability box. Now when it's time to get back out, just simply flick the switch and away you go. Go get my wire cutters real quick before I lose them there. Alright. Should probably turn these traps off first. That wouldn't be the smoothest. There we go. Now we still have the slime statue and the 2 heart statues inside, and I am going to use, I think I'm going to use the green wire off of this particular timer, as I can't cross those wires, just to come down and power up our slime and our heart statues. Those I'm just going to go ahead and run directly through the middle. Now you want to make sure you avoid any of your lamps or your campfire, as they will make those flicker on and off if they get a signal as well. So now we need to go ahead and wire up the set of traps below. Going to get all those started just right off of the other side. Now it's important to make sure that you continue on and touch the other side of the wire, as you are going to be getting the signal for this side from the timer and not from the pressure plate. Now this side we're going to be splitting, as there's not enough room to get more than 2 sets of wires into each side of the spear traps. We're going to split them up. We're going to put half down this side, and then we're going to get over and put half down the other side here. So let's go ahead and get our first set run down, and let's see how far out do we need to make it. Now we remember our first set, we want to go to the top set of spears. So we're going to have those in as close as possible, and that's more than enough room to clear this red wire. So let's go ahead and just head straight down from there. always give yourself space, but don't spread it out too far, as you do want to make sure that you have, plenty of room. So these are going to be actually go over to the far side here. That's going to be the farthest one out. So we're going to run that down behind just directly behind these traps. See, how far do we want to do it? So blue is going to be the bottom. So let's go right in there. And then we'll do, what's next? Green. Same thing, we're going to follow that right along. When I normally do these, I think I do smaller sections at a time and do all 3 wires, but it doesn't really matter, as long as it gets done. Going to go down and around. Now there's a reason I'm doing that, which I'll show you here in a moment. There we go, and then last but not least, of course, red. Excited to see what other creations can be made. I actually played around with this farm for quite a bit, as I wanted to use something with some teleporter pads that would take you back and forth, but it seemed to make more sense just to go ahead and go for it with the slime invulnerability box. Now this one we're going to do a little bit different, as we're going to use our red wire to trigger that set of flame traps. And then we actually don't even need to go all the way down. We can just take it right out across there like that. So I'm going to go ahead and speed on through getting the rest of these wires laid down. Alright, so we got everything wired in. As you see, well, missing one there, it looks like. There we go. I got a little confused with the wiring down here and ended up doing them out of order on the bottom. But it doesn't really matter as long as they're all being triggered in a timely manner. Now, let's take a look. I believe we're all done. Now, as you see, I used the blue down here just to handle those flame traps. Okay, so we've got all of these spears and our flames wired. We've got our teleporters, our slimes, our hearts, all that good stuff wired. Let's go ahead and get rid of the Stardust Dragon and hop on into the trap and watch it in action here. Very nice. So we got everything squared away. Of course, we're going to have a little defense. We won't be taking so much damage from those slimes when we're actually using it. But here is a look at the trap in motion. So you see we got our hearts, we got our slimes inside there. We got baddies spawning below and getting promptly wrecked as the spears and the flames just go ahead and pummel them down from the bottom there. Let's go ahead and shut everything off. And there we go. We are good to go and ready to go ahead and try out the event. A couple of stray slimes here. Let me get these guys squared away. I'm thinking I might want to wait till daylight to go ahead and attempt the event. So let's go ahead and do that. I'll just head on back and prepare for all the loot. Alright, so it's just before 7. Time to go ahead and buff up and head on over to get things started. Now, it is important that you use a summon of something that cannot go through blocks. I'm going to be using the Ruthless Deadly Sphere Staff, which seems to get the job done nicely for me. And then I switched over to my solar armor just for the additional defense. So let's go ahead and activate all of our traps, hop inside the box, and I'm going to go ahead and get my spheres out. And once I get the spheres out, I'm going to go ahead and switch over to some more defensive gear. Using all warding on everything. Very nice. Now, my deadly spheres are a little inactive out there and bored to tears right at the moment. It's all good. The slimes are getting stuff done, and more importantly, giving me that much needed invulnerability. So let's go ahead and start the event. And wave 1, here it comes. Now, I am using the Warding Star Veil to help increase the length of invincibility after taking damage, and that's helping me out even more with those slimes. So just going to kick it and enjoy the show. So I'm going to go ahead and speed on through till we get to the end there, and let's see how this goes. Alright, and there we go. Now, didn't do as well as I thought. I only made the 350 points. Go ahead and turn everything off here. And then we'll head back down and collect all the fatness. As you saw midway through there, I had an issue with my deadly spheres that were trapped underneath, so I'm actually assuming that ravens will probably be maybe a better choice of what minions to bring along. But let's check out what kind of goodness we got down here. A bunch of trophies, all kinds of stuff. Bunch of spooky whips. I got 8 Morning Wood trophies and 4 Pumpkin King trophies, so not too shabby there. Now this stuff does, of course, sell very well. See bats, maybe even. I've never tried it with bats. I'll have to check that out. I'm thinking ravens are probably going to be the summoned minions to use, though, as the meteors, although they got the job done, they got caught up underneath there. But that's going to do it for now. Thank you for watching. Click that like button. Please subscribe to the channel. And we'll be back soon with some more Terraria 1.3. See ya.